BJ Mafia was popping. So the Jacksonville Jaguars will be hosting the Indianapolis Colts in a Week 6 AFC South showdown, as the Jaguars are coming off two impressive victories in the United Kingdom after getting back-to-back victories over the Atlanta Falcons and the Buffalo Bills. And now the Jaguars are going to be looking to maintain that top seed in the AFC South, as the Jaguars and the Colts both have 3-2 records. The Colts have gotten off to an extremely hot and impressive start to their 2023 campaign, and the Jaguars currently hold that tiebreaker over the Indianapolis Colts after they beat them in the season opener at Lucas Oil Stadium. Now, out of respect for Gardner Minshew, Minshew mania, and him making his return back to Jacksonville, where I'm sure he's going to get a nice round welcome of applause, as he should, I'm going to be wearing this Gardner Minshew jersey all throughout this preview video. And a lot of Jaguar fans, including myself, I believe have a lot of love, admiration, and gratitude towards Gardner Minshew, because he consistently embraced the team, the city, the culture, what this fan base was all about. He brought us hope, and he's just consistently a team guy. He always puts the team first. He's a very selfless dude, and he just seems like a very down-to-earth, humble dude. So I just wanted to give him his flowers, give him a moment of respect, because a lot of Jaguar fans, including myself, feel that way about him. And like I do for every preview video, I always go ahead and talk about the opponent first. That's gonna come with the Indianapolis Colts. Then I'll transition into talking about the Jaguars, and at the very end, I'll give my final thoughts and takeaways. But before we talk about the Indianapolis Colts, let's actually go ahead and look at the injury report for both teams. So starting with the Indianapolis Colts, they're a little banged up, but the biggest news on their injury report is with rookie quarterback and former Florida Gators quarterback Anthony Richardson, who just suffered a shoulder injury in Week 5 versus the Tennessee Titans, which was a very nice win by the Indianapolis Colts team, and we all love seeing the Titans lose. Back to Anthony Richardson, though, he did maintain that shoulder injury, which is going to keep him out to at least 4 to 8 weeks, and he may be required to have surgery. You hope he gets better, man. He's a special talent and a great, humble young kid. I'm excited to see what he's going to do in this league, because Anthony Richardson is going to be a phenomenal player. He's just too talented, too much of a dynamic, athletic specimen to not be able to succeed at the next level, and he showed a lot of promise through the first 5 weeks when he's been on the field and been healthy. Next up for the Indianapolis Colts, Kwity Paye. He is in concussion protocol, but he was a full participant in practice on Wednesday, so I expect him to be a go. There was no Mo Alley-Cox. He got injured in that Week 5 performance as well, too. Same thing in the concussion protocol. He actually did not practice on Wednesday. And then also right tackle Braden Smith, he's listed as questionable for the game. When you look at the Jaguars injury report, wide receiver Zay Jones and left tackle Walker Little both got banged up in Week 5. They both did not practice on Wednesday, with both having knee injuries. You look at Devin Lloyd and Christian Braswell. Both of them were limited in practice on Wednesday. Devin Lloyd didn't even travel with the team to the UK after he suffered that minor thumb injury. And then you look at Cam Robinson, Dawon Smoot, and Devon Hamilton are back off of the injured reserve. Cam Robinson made his debut back in Week 5 versus the Buffalo Bills after coming off of suspension. Dawon Smoot and Devon Hamilton, that's going to help bolster that front seven for the Jaguars, which has been very sporadic through the first couple of weeks of the season. But getting another edge rusher and getting another guy in the middle of the nose tackle position, that is going to be huge for the Jaguars, and I expect both Devon Hamilton and Dawon Smoot, even on a snap count, to go ahead and make their season debuts this weekend. Now talking about the Indianapolis Colts, for you guys that do not know, which I'm sure most of you do, the Indianapolis Colts have not won in Jacksonville since 2014. The Jaguars have an 8-game win streak at home versus the Indianapolis Colts. You have to go all the way back to 2014 to the last time the Colts beat the Jaguars in Jacksonville, and they won that game convincingly. I'm sure Gardner Minshew would like to get some revenge on his old team, and they want to make amends and get an early statement win in the division and try to go number 1 in the AFC South. Take a look at what Gardner Minshew has done this season, because he has appeared in all 5 games for the Colts, even if some of it was not him starting and finishing the game because of Anthony Richardson being injured. Nonetheless, Gardner Minshew came in and filled the shoes very well for this Indianapolis Colts team. Even though Shane Steichen has a lot of RPO and a heavy run set in this offense, they've got good skill position players, and they've done a good job of putting both Anthony Richardson and Gardner Minshew in positions to be successful in this offense so far throughout the early parts of the season. Minshew in 5 games so far has thrown for 553 yards, 2 touchdowns to 0 interceptions. He's completed 68.7% of his passes, and he's got a quarterback rating of a 69.9, scale of 0 to 100. Minshew's played very well. Now let's actually take a look at what the Indianapolis Colts did last weekend versus the Tennessee Titans, getting a big win over a divisional rival. Gardner Minshew was fantastic as a game manager last weekend and making the necessary plays when he needed to in order to beat the Tennessee Titans, coming in for an injured Anthony Richardson. Minshew went 11 of 14 for 155 yards, 11.1 yards per pass on average, had an 88.9 quarterback rating and 112.8 passer rating. And even though Jonathan Taylor, one of the best running backs in the game of football, came back and made his season debut, he was extremely quiet. Maybe some of that had to do with Russ. He only had 6 carries for 18 yards, but it was Zach Moss out of the backfield who really helped lead the way for the Indianapolis Colts. He had 23 carries for 165 yards, 7.2 yards per carry, and had 2 touchdowns, including that long 50-plus yarder in the first half to get them on the board early. You look at rookie wideout Joshua Downs from UNC. He's a cat that I wanted desperately to come to the Jaguars pre-draft process, and unfortunately, he had to go to a divisional rival. Joshua Downs had a very good game last weekend. 6 receptions for 97 yards. Michael Pittman, 5 receptions for 52 yards. And you look at what Downs and Pittman Jr. has done throughout the early parts of the season, they've been great. Joshua Downs, 23 receptions, 255 yards, and 11.1 yards per catch. Michael Pittman Jr., obviously one of the better young wideouts in the game of football. 31 catches for 297 yards, including that touchdown, which came back in week 1 versus the Jaguars. And although Jonathan Taylor did struggle in his first game of the season versus the Tennessee Titans, just 6 carries for 18 yards, in 5 career games versus the Jaguars, Jonathan Taylor's been phenomenal. 84 carries for 522 yards and 3 touchdowns. And while Gardner Minshew is a very solid quarterback, he presents a lot less challenges to opposing defenses, especially this Jaguars defense, versus an Anthony Richardson who can do a lot more things with his legs. He does have great arm talent, Anthony Richardson, and Gardner Minshew, while he can step up in the pocket, he can evade some pressure. He's not quite as dynamic as Anthony Richardson. It goes without being said. You're going to make Gardner Minshew beat you from the pocket and see if he can beat you consistently that way. The Jaguars are going to have to do a good job of staying in their lanes, containing him, and making sure that they're able to get home to Gardner Minshew. But let's actually go ahead and flip it over to the Jaguars side of the ball. You cannot talk about this Jaguars team without talking about quarterback at the helm, William Trevor Lawrence, aka Mr. Sunshine, the prince that was promised, Jacksonville's Jesus, whatever nickname you have for him. He has been sensational through the first 5 weeks of the season. Now, the box score is not going to show it, but actually go back and watch the tape. Trevor Lawrence has been amazing through the first 5 weeks of the season. Trevor Lawrence has 1,258 yards, 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He's completing 67.2% of his passes. He's got a quarterback rating of a 55.1 and a passer rating of a 91.9 throughout the beginning parts of the season. Trevor Lawrence right now is the 6th highest graded quarterback per PFF and is the #1 graded quarterback on deep passes of 20+ yards this season, as he's completing 10 of 18 of those passes for 287 yards, 3 touchdowns to 0 interceptions, and he followed that up with a huge performance last weekend, getting a win in the UK over the Buffalo Bills. Look at what Trevor Lawrence did last weekend on big time downs. On 3rd and 4th down last weekend, Trevor Lawrence was 9 of 10, 114 yards, 1 touchdown, and had a damn near perfect passer rating with a 147.5 passer rating. In week 5, Trevor Lawrence completed 25 of 37 passes for 315 yards, 1 touchdown. He was sacked 5 times, but had a quarterback rating of a 78.5 and a passer rating of 102.9. You look at Travis Etienne and what he did out of the backfield, 26 carries for 136 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also chipped in 4 receptions for 48 yards. In the receiving department, Calvin Ridley had his first bounce back game and his first big game since week 1. He recorded 7 receptions for 122 yards. Old, steady, and reliable Christian Kirk, 6 catches for 78 yards. Evan Ingram, 4 catches for 28 yards. And then defensively for the Jaguars, the biggest standout has been with Josh Allen. He's tied for 2nd in the NFL with 6 sacks so far this season. And you look at what Trevor Lawrence did last weekend, like I said, you cannot rave enough about how well he played. He did a great job of being patient, the game plan, the execution, of picking apart the zones and finding mismatches on that defensive side of the ball. Not having Tre'Davious White out there obviously hurt the Buffalo Bills, but having a guy on the outside like Calvin Ridley who can create those mismatches, he's a dynamic playmaker on the outside. You can have him win in one-on-one coverages. You can have Calvin Ridley and Christian Kirk coming across the middle and finding those mismatches within the zones, and also having the patience in the running game. Travis Etienne doesn't just hit the hole, he finds a way to bounce it out to the outside, and he's quick and dynamic enough to beat guys on the outside. Consistently, Travis Etienne helps open up this offense, and he provides a different spark and a different element to this offense. You saw a great job of what they could do defensively for the Jaguars. You had the Jaguars defense and their front seven do a great job of containing Josh Allen, not letting him get out of the pocket very often and to make plays with his arm and with his legs. You're gonna have to do the same thing this weekend, because while Minshew is not nearly as dynamic as of a runner as an Anthony Richardson can be, he can still get up out of the pocket, he can still make some plays with his legs, and he can still evade some kind of pressure. You gotta still stay in your lanes, and I do think that getting Dawuane Smoot and Devon Hamilton back this weekend is gonna tremendously help this front seven, especially on the back end. You cannot have an Alec Pierce, a guy who's a great deep threat, or a guy like a Joshua Downs, a guy who can get yak yards after he gets a 5-6 yard pass over the middle of the field. You cannot let these guys get over the top of you, because the Jaguars last weekend, while Darius Williams did a great job of getting that interception on Stephon Diggs last weekend in the game, he made a great job of high pointing that ball. But prior to him getting that interception, Stephon Diggs burned him earlier in the game, and Darius Williams probably thought he had Rayshon Jenkins or another safety over the top to help him. That wasn't the case. There needs to be better communication, because the Indianapolis Colts do have some burners, and I don't expect the Jaguars to go out there and allow that to happen after what we saw last weekend. Trevor Lawrence is a guy who's had a lot of success versus Gus Bradley in that defense, a guy who runs a lot of single high safety, a lot of cover one, a lot of cover three concepts, and he's gonna have a lot of guys playing out of the flat, something that we saw a lot of in week one, and I expect Trevor Lawrence to continue to dominate versus Gus Bradley in that defense and to continue that level of success that we've seen from him. Now, kind of getting into my final verdict with this game, I do think that the Jaguars go out there. They come into this game as 4.5 point favorites. They're not only going to win this game, they are going to cover the spread with this game. If you look back to week one, while it was primarily Anthony Richardson out there, they only put up 14 points offensively speaking. I don't like a Gardner Minshew-led offense who, like I said, with all due respect, has done a good job coming in and filling the void of an Anthony Richardson. I like the Jaguars defense to play a lot better stylistically speaking with the Gardner Minshew back there at quarterback. So I like the Colts offense to really go out there, maybe get 14 to 17 points in this matchup. I like the Jaguars to go out there and score 30 plus points. So I'm gonna say the Jaguars go out there and they win this game 34 to 17. Jaguars need to come out there, make a statement victory, continue their dominance, and sweep the Colts in the division this upcoming season, and to continue to move up in the standings in the AFC. The Jaguars will go 4-2 on the season, as the Indianapolis Colts will drop to 3-3. But Jaguars and Colts fans, I want to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. What do you guys think of this matchup? And also make sure you guys go ahead and drop me a score prediction down below. Who do you guys think wins this game? And give me a bold take for this game. Jags fans, Colts fans, if you guys enjoyed today's video, make sure you guys go ahead and drop me a thumbs up. It takes 1 second and it helps me and the channel out tremendously. If you guys are new here, consider hitting that subscribe bell to stay tuned for more Jaguars content that I do here on YouTube. And make sure you guys also go ahead and follow me on my socials, especially on Twitter. I'm very active and I'm on there every single day. The link tree will be in the description down below so that you guys can go ahead and check that out. But Jags fans, thanks again for sticking around throughout the whole video. Brett James, aka BJ, I'm out, y'all. Go Jags, baby. Peace.